my own writing here. Thank you, Deputy Chair. It's Sina and Member Sam Sefu presenting this morning. Nā mihi nui hoki ki a koutou, tēnā koe, tālofa lava, mālo lelei, and warm greetings to you all, Madam Chair, our councillors, my panel colleagues, our council officers. Thank you for this opportunity this morning for us to present. If I may just add the congratulations as echoed by the Disabilities Panel and Ethnic Panel around the unitary plan and that momentous task. Our panel was very pleased to see that it had been approved and look forward to the work that is to proceed from here in ensuring all of our community's needs are met. Look, the decision of the Mayor and the governing body at the start of this term to continue the existence of the panel, as somebody that was involved in the inaugural panel, undergoing that selection process to appoint a group of very skilled and experienced Pacific leaders from across the city of Auckland, from across the diverse islands of the Pacific, some of those islands of whom Council has committed to memorandums of agreement, acknowledging the huge populations that are here in Auckland and the connectedness and mobility of our populations to and from. We applaud you and express our thanks to this governing body for your vision and support to ensure Pacific people's presence and visibility within the council structures remain a clear commitment. The opportunity for us to engage with Council, to be able to contribute perspectives and express our views on key matters and areas of significance for our Pacific people across the region has been a privilege and not without its challenges and frustrations. I'm sure you're all aware through previous minutes and previous discussions. We have much to celebrate and a whole lot more that needs to be addressed to enable Pacific peoples to grow and thrive in all senses, social, economic, cultural, and have a real place of sense of belonging in the city that we are currently developing. This term, the Pacific Panel has chosen to focus on the strategic priorities as outlined in the Auckland Plan. The continuity, there are two members who have continued from the inaugural panel, and that was one of our areas of focus that we discussed with the panel now. We believe that we consulted widely with our Pacific communities in the consultation period of the Auckland Plan, and we didn't want to cause any consultation fatigue. I think our communities are quite aware of what it is that they need, where the gaps and weaknesses and the strengths are, and really I guess they had an expectation that this panel would progress those aspirations through the priorities outlined in the Auckland Plan and the resources attached. So where those measures of success or whether we've achieved it, that's another thing that we haven't got to, I guess. The recent review of the demographic panel's representation, we are hopeful that this piece of work, which is available shortly, I believe, Austin, will identify structures, roles and responsibilities in terms of references and resources that will enable more effective mechanisms that optimise specific contributions to the shaping, development of, monitoring and evaluation, enhancing and strengthening of Council's core business and how best we can deliver for Pacific population's key outcomes. Our work program focused on those priorities and aspirations that the panel's identified. I think we're on the pages 3 to 5 in the brief report that Austin's prepared. And I just pass on to my colleague, Sam, to elaborate on some of the highlights and achievements and some of the issues. Thanks.
Thanks, Tina. Talofalava. I guess there are three sort of influences over the time that we've been, which we've provided Council, and I can use three examples. A fruit fly, a cyclone, and housing, and affordable housing have been probably the underlying influences in our in what we've been doing. The fruit fly, well, we had a fruit fly that encouraged us to move a very major festival from inner city Auckland, from where I live, out south. And what that did was that for the first time forced the CCOs, AT, the relationship with Auckland Council and the relationship with Pacific peoples to actually get together and try and work out the value of this iconic festival, the Pacific Festival, which is 25 years anniversary next year. And it is, it's one of the few iconic activities which brings together a whole range of things that actually talks about our economic value. It talks about the cultural value to the city that Pacific populations bring. It talks about relationships between our Pacific nations in the Pacific region and also those populations that now reside in the Auckland region. And it's a particular piece of work which we felt in the background has been valuable in attending to some of those priorities that have been set out in our work program. And so we've put some views around this magic little fruit fly to actually talk about how we go about celebrating that that particular festival for next year, and we're seeking your support in that. But also how we utilise those sorts of events as economic drivers for communities that have very little asset of their own, and how we can build that up in terms of business enterprise capacity, the value of creative industries, the impact on how we bring together effectively what is a young Auckland population. We're looking at cyclones, and we just want to acknowledge the fact that this council has been, through the Mayor and the Mayoral Committee, have actually been good at bringing together the range of Pacific families and leaders in attending to the cyclone season in the Pacific region. Why is that so important? Because council, whether it be a legacy council or whether it be the current framework that we now work in, has had a lot to do with the connectiveness to countries of Vanuatu, to Tonga, to Fiji. And if it wasn't for those relationships, we wouldn't have the much improved work between those countries in trying to deal with the issues that they are facing and the resources that are available not only from the community but also from this local authority. Housing. The lack of affordability has meant for many of our communities, and I guess the engagement that this panel has had has really been in giving support to those local boards who have had strong Pacific leaders in those boards and giving support to them. And the sad, the challenge has been for those boards is the depopulation of Pacific residents to other parts of Auckland because of affordability and because of the income environment that they live in. And I guess we're mindful of the work that that major activities such as Southern Initiative and a number of the other things that have brought on board. How do we go about giving support to the to attend to address issues such as housing and the conditions of housing and the environment that they operate in? The massive impact of construction, building and infrastructure thing that's available to us, and how that has ensured the engagement of young Pacific people into apprenticeships and into the trades which are now required. So the role that the panel has had is hopefully the value of it has been to provide you, council, which is our primary focus, and the Mayor, that that cross-sectoral advice has actually added some value to your performance and not necessarily ours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sam. Thank you, Sina. Any questions? Councillor Filipaina.
Malo lava fionga ai luputia, malo soifua, o sasunga Samuelu. Firstly, as the only other Samoan on the governing body, I just want to acknowledge the work that your panel has done, and I've got the same two questions for you. Before I ask those questions around the value that you have put into Auckland Council, but also whether it should continue, I just want to acknowledge the work that Tunu Mafono Ava Whaamoe does on the TSI, on the Southern Initiative, as the Pacific Advisory Panel's representative. And we're hoping that the other advisory boards, depending on what happens next term, will also be part of the Southern Initiative. So the two questions that, as I asked Dave, are the two questions I want to pose to you both. Jayla, is around whether you add value and whether it should continue next term.
I'll answer first, and you can answer Sam. Absolutely. Where the Pacific population is 70% of Auckland population and a growing youthful population, I think it's important to ensure, given our representation in the elected, I mean that's another matter, as elected members is very low, we need to ensure that the voices of that 17%, although they are also represented through our geographical wards and local boards, that voice, collective voice across the region for Pacific is strong, and that the council continues to commit to it, to enable us to have to contribute to the richness of, I guess, discussion and views and perspectives, to support and assist council elected members and council officers. So if I compare the where we got to, the progress we made from the inaugural to now, I think we have made gains, much like my ethnic panel chair had expressed. I think the visibility and the, I guess, awareness of council officers around matters that are important to Pacific population is growing, and I think it's just a piece of work that can continue through the various mechanisms, structures of council. Sam, did you want to add to that?
The only addition would be to say that that we're a mechanism of you. We're not, and that so really we can only respond to your to your requests, and so we offer what we've offered is strategic advice on a cross-sectoral thing, and that we, as part of that, note that the importance of the engagement with CCOs as well as local boards, because they, at the end of the day, have a hands-on interaction, as you do in your role, with those communities concerned.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Philip. I've got Councillor Casey and then Councillor Webster.
If I may, through the Chair, you've prompted a question not to you but to the Chair, if I may. And it's following from Councillor Philip. What is the process for, we're asking these people, do you want to continue? And everybody will say, yes, of course. What is the process for continuing? I mean, do we have a say in it, or is it the new mayor? Because some of the new mayors don't want panels. So what's the process for us having a say? And that's the first question. The second question is, I've heard about a review of the panels. When is the governing body going to be briefed on that review?
So I think we'll take this in two bits. So my understanding is that it is up to the new council, the continuation or not. And I'll ask Marguerite to talk about the review, or Dean to talk about the review process.
So when you say it's the new council, isn't it a mayoral directive to have panels, or some form of consultation?
But that's up to the mayor. We may get a mayor who is, we're crystal ball gazing here. We may get a mayor who just, we could ask Ms. Bright, what would you do? No, just God, don't go there. But, it is up to the mayor. One mayor may come in and say, as an executive mayor, make the decision to have panels. I have spoken, therefore it is, and another mayor might have a much more consultative approach. I have no idea. I haven't spoken to any of the mayoral candidates about it. None of them have spoken to me about it. Some of them may have spoken to you guys. I certainly have no idea. Maybe that's a question for some of the meetings.
So,
Marguerite.
So just on that then, can we today, because we've heard from 3 panels, we have a great awareness of the work of these 3 panels, can we pass a motion in support of the panels today?
No. I think
the
the
3 that
advice,
we've heard?
no, because I
they're not all
I
here.
think that's unfair. We're not prepared, nor are we, is it the right time to do
In
that?
principle support.
But I think the right thing to do, and I will ask Marguerite to comment, the advice is that each of us should be translating this through, sorry, that's not the right word, we should be telling the mayoral aspirants what our views are. Marguerite?
So the review of the panels by Martin Jenkins and Associate, it is done to provide advice to the incoming mayor on the panels. And the panels are a mechanism that the mayor has chosen to give life to his obligation to engage with the different communities of Auckland. And our advice to the incoming mayor on the panels, we will provide the report, and the report provides some options. One of the options is to continue with the panel with some changes. There are others in that report. And our advice to the incoming mayor, once we get some direction about what he or she